From air quality alerts to dealing with a very unfamiliar haze, what we breathe in has been a big topic of discussion recently due to the Canadian wildfires. To get clarity about what we should know for our health, we're talking with Dr. Jen Caudle, a board-certified physician and professor. Dr. Jen, thank you so much for joining us today. And what exactly are air quality alerts and how is our health impacted by them?
It does happen from time to time that we do get air quality alerts. I will say that I feel like the wildfires that are happening right now and the resulting air quality alerts that we're getting, I do feel that it just feels like it's on a higher magnitude than I remember in recent past. And I feel like also a lot more of the United States, more regions, more people are impacted, and perhaps even more seriously than before. What we're talking about is that the air quality is poor. What we are seeing is poor air quality from wildfires. And interestingly enough, wildfire smoke is something that we definitely want to avoid for a number of health reasons, which we can certainly talk about.
Well, let's talk about some of those health concerns that you just touched on, because over the past few weeks, we have been seeing advisories about how long people should be spending outside, especially for those more vulnerable populations. What are the risks?
When we talk about air quality being poor from wildfire smoke, we have to remember that if we are in those elements, we're going to be inhaling smoke. That's a problem and can be a problem for a number of reasons. And it's not necessarily just a problem for those people with underlying lung or heart conditions, which sometimes we often think of. The air quality lately has been bad enough that people without underlying conditions should also avoid being out in this poor air as well. Couple of things. Wildfire smoke, the smoke is comprised of different gases. But in addition to that, there's what we call particulate matter. Very, very small, very fine pieces of matter that comprise the wildfire smoke, in addition to the gases. Those particles can get into our upper airways, our eyes, our nose, our mouth. I remember I live on the East Coast, and when I go outside now and earlier, a few weeks ago, I noticed that my eyes were irritated. They kind of burned. I had a scratchy throat. I coughed, and that likely was from particulate matter. But also, it can get into the upper airways as well as the lower airways as well. And this is really what can be a problem for those people who have underlying heart and lung conditions, asthma, heart disease, etc. So there's very real reasons why we need to avoid being outside and inhaling, smoke from wildfires. And when the air quality is poor, we should be avoiding it.
Now, would you say there's a specific amount of time that is safe to spend outside?
Recommendations about time that we spend outside should depend on a number of things. It should depend on, first of all, the air quality in your area, because there are different ranges of air quality sort of grades, right? There can be air quality so severe that everyone really should avoid being outside all the time. There's air quality alerts where perhaps maybe only those with underlying health conditions should avoid. So that's the first thing. And number two, knowing your underlying conditions. That will help you determine what you should and should not do. What I would say is that you always want to stay safe. If there are air quality problems, the safest thing would be to avoid being out in those elements really at all. If you do have to go out, some things you can do, obviously keep your time brief that you're outside. Wear an N95 mask or a KF94. Those masks may not be 100% for something like this, but certainly may help. Making sure that you are just being mindful of your surroundings, et cetera, and just really minimizing that contact would be the best thing.
Dr. Jen, this is super helpful. And before we go, I know that you work really hard to keep the public informed via social media. So where can people keep up with you and your work?
Well, thank you for that. So you can go to my website, drjencaudle.com. I'm also on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, et cetera, at Dr. Jen Caudle.
Dr. Jen, thank you so much.